this is a tool to get us off of it. And I want to actually see it. And I want to know that the district is committed to it beyond just paying for another program. Like, how are we going to move how are we going to move our staff and these unpopular decisions that are going to be made? How are we going to see it through? That's it.
Thank you, Julia. Okay, I think we've said everything there is to be said tonight about this program. Dr. Fejo, Dr. Marrero, I don't know if there's anything else you want to say to close out the conversation. Dr. Marrero.
Yes, I want to thank Ms. Gonzalez and Ms. Adegbola, but I also want to echo the voices of the folks who are also part of the collective, the other department chairs, house principals, former and current interim principal as well. So although they are taking a role to be spokeswoman and so eloquently making the case of also explicitly explaining what has happened, but also the fact that it's needed in terms of the systemic change. Thank you very much to you both and your entire team. And I have to also reflect as well, because initially I was a bit taken back, but I have to appreciate and accept the fact that the historical perspective is not something that I have, right? So I understand wholeheartedly now what has happened and what has came and furthered away. So I can appreciate any hesitation, but what I can say is that this is beyond a program. It's been referred to a service and a consultant as neither of those. It is a shift in culture, a shift in mindset, and a shift in a systemic way of how we address students. And although I agree with the majority of what we're saying, and now I've reflected and realized that it's not just me trying to come in and say this worked here and it will work there as well. What I can say is that I have seen this, right? And this is the educator in me and my philosophy, that although we have addressed it, like Ms. Adegbola mentioned in our DSEP, Priority 5 speaks to the work that we're going to do in elementary and middle school. So that's why it was presented in the way that it was. Goal 5 is EOS rooted. Goal 5 is us changing the culture in college and career readiness, beginning with our kindergartners all the way up to 8th grade. So there is a continuum, and Dr. Fejo mentioned the fact that we're going to add a tremendous addition to our elementary support in Mr. Leo. However, I have seen it. Right, I've seen it as a colleague, a peer, and I've seen it as a leader, in which we'll have a student who comes into high school, transient student, SIFE student who transfers over, a student who comes from overseas who doesn't understand the language, and not only do they enroll in an AP Spanish language or AP literature in Spanish in their native language, which is expected. I've seen such a student who's had interrupted instruction in K-8 walk away with a suite of AP offerings and also even become valedictorian. So I just want to acknowledge the fact that although we are working on a K-12 continuum, we also need to address it right in the root cause. And if something's not happening in the high school, we have to address it, and we need to be laser focused. And this will assist, right? And to correct something, it's not a 3-year commitment. It can be a 2 if we want additional support, but it's at 1-year commitment. And so they can help us sustain the process. And the question that was asked, and why can't we do it? That's the question, and it's not rhetorical. I can't answer that, right? It has been happening in silos, as the department chairs mentioned, but it hasn't happened as the entire system of a high school. This will allow us to build the model and to sustain the model. So it hasn't happened. This will allow us for, I'm not going to say pennies, but small amount of a commitment that's already been earmarked for something that is much needed and sustain the change, so we can replicate what's been happening perhaps in the math department, in the ELA department, and also the social studies department, who also has done tremendous work in diversifying the AP offerings. And in Ms. Falcon, in terms of the service, I have not come across an organization that delivers the suite of support in terms of consultant, insight cards, in terms of the equity collection, the equity framework. And I do have a sole source letter that indicates that this is a product and a service that's solely provided by EOS. So that answers that question. There were several other answers that were provided in the wonderful responses by the department chairs.
Thank you, Dr. Marrero. Dr. Fejo, does that conclude our presentation?
I think that he said everything I was going to say, but I do want to thank the chairs who came out tonight to do this at this very late hour to be with us and answer those questions. Really appreciate it. And I know this was on and off, and I appreciate you being here. And then those that are also not here that contributed to the conversation and the work that you do every single day that supports students. And so I want to just thank you all.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank
Good night.
you. Okay. So we're going to move on now to liaison reports. Does anyone have any liaison reports? Okay. Being no liaison reports, we are going to move on.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
I spoke too soon. Okay, Valerie, make it snappy.
This is just a brief one.
Okay.
MBK continues to work with the students. We had a meeting with the mayor, Noam Bramson, the coordinators, and so we're moving strong, and we want to make sure that we're doing all we can do for MBK scholars.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. We seem to have lost Miss Moselli. Is she here? No. Well, I'm sure she'll come back, just like I got bumped out before. All right, so let's move on then to our public comment portion of our meeting. I will just read a statement before I call on our speakers who have signed up in advance. At this time, I'm pleased to open the floor to comments from members of the public. The board sets aside time at our regular meetings for public comment because we want to hear from you. We do have some simple rules for this part of the agenda. First, when you come to the microphone, please state your name and address and the name of the organization if speaking in a representative capacity. Second, please note that individuals are not permitted to cede their time to other speakers. Third, please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. If you contacted the district clerk no later than 3:30 today, indicating your intention to speak with an identification of the topic you wish to address. Otherwise, please limit your comments to 2 minutes. Fourth, making statements about specific district employees or students is not permitted during the public comment period. If you have an issue which you would like addressed regarding a particular school district employee or student, we ask that you bring that directly to the superintendent of schools by a phone call or email. Please keep in mind that this is a meeting of the Board of Education and our business is education. So we have 9 members of the public who are signed up in advance. I'm going to call on them as in order that they are signed up. The first person signed up is Lisa Burton. Hello, Lisa.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Hi. I sent you all letters this past couple of days, and it really revolved around the issue of providing a free public education to all of our students. New Rochelle had the distinction of being first with distance learning, and I think we just dropped the ball. I'm so glad to hear that there's been movement towards that, but again, I gotta remind you, we're in August. This happened in March. We are losing our students. And then that leads me to another point that I want to make, is that this is an opportunity. I mean, in every disaster, right, there is an opportunity. You have an opportunity to change the way things are always done here. You know, remote learning cannot be just classroom, you know, the same structure as a classroom, only at home. It reminds me, and I'm showing my age at this point, when we first got email And people literally tried to structure an email the same way they would write a memo, and wanted the different fonts, and they wanted the this and the that, and they were misusing a wonderful new tool. You are now in the midst of using a powerful tool for education, and changing the way in which we educate across the district, and getting rid of the things that create the inequities. And yet you are committed to doing the same thing that has always been done. And I urge you to really, really think about why it is that we have such a disparity between outcomes for Albert Leonard and what feeder schools are creating those inequities, and why and how, and really doing that hard work, and looking to what you have in the district. And my last point, I did not realize you were going to be talking about AP and such, but when I was in high school at New Rochelle, and I was in a number of AP classes, and I was one of 2 African Americans in all of AP in the class of 78. Nothing has changed, and it's got to change. The way we, my friends and I got the Honor Society to be most, African American was by going and asking people to join us. You need to enlist the students. You need to enlist the community. You need to enlist the Fund for Excellence, for Christ's sake. They are in the business of helping students achieve excellence. So I thank you, because gosh knows, 10:30 at night to be doing this for free. I applaud you all. Thank you, and please have a great evening.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, our next speaker is Brenda DeGiacomo. Hi, Brenda.
Good evening. You can hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. As a part of a campus back to New Rochelle High School, the very students who were thriving so well in their separated and smaller setting that is removed from our overcrowded, overwhelming New Rochelle High School will be greatly inhibited and suffer academic and emotional education, which is typically always away from the main high school. Chance to succeed. Those alternative high school students are designated and worthy. Many of us have previously been teased, bullied, cut class, became fearful of their life at the high school. And us to put them back in the same situation is not helping. And as I talk to teachers, parents, and students that are now at the campus, a few of them will not feel safe going back to the high school and will be dropping out of school. Is all this being put into consideration? And also, again, about going back to school. Yes, I do think it's very important for our kids to have a social life and to be in school with the students and staff. But is it safe? I have a kid home with diabetes. I have a kid with asthma, and I have medical issues. Is it worth putting our lives in danger for our kids to have an education? Because to me, yes, education is very, very important. But my life and my kids' life are more important than education. For us to put our kids and our staff back in this situation sometimes is not the best thing. So we have to come up with something that is going to be best for all families involved and staff. And I'm not just speaking for myself, I'm speaking for others. I really appreciate it if you guys are really put in consideration of how hard these high school students work. And I would like it to be known of when they go back to the high school, what's their cut-in, what's their attendance, what's everything, their grades. I would like to be updated of the difference and the changes from going from St. Gabe to back to the high school. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Al McCutcheon. Let's try this. Al, you there?
Good evening, everyone.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening, Dr. Fayol. Good evening, board cabinet and board administrative cabinet and board members. My name is Al Prince McCutcheon, 31 Faneuil Place. I'm also the PTA Council President. And I'm speaking on behalf of the PTA Council and the consensus of the PTA units in New Rochelle. And I'm going to try to be hyper-focused. I must admit, in full disclosure, I'm speaking extemporaneously right now. My house has lost complete power, so it's my daughter's birthday. A lot of things going on. We just decided to kind of just go outside and kind of do a thing out there, so I don't have any notes. I'm gonna go extemporaneously. I want to talk about the parents first and foremost, and when we look at the distance learning plan that's been put forth, or the hybrid plan that's been put forth, I really hope to implore upon people, those who have the wherewithal and say so, that we need to really think about the distance learning plan first and foremost. We are late in the game, and and anxiety is increasing by the day. I think as well as, and I'm representing the thoughts of the PTAs that think that we need to focus on the distance learning capacity and improving upon what was done in the springtime as well as in the summertime. That should be our hyper focus, because we need to stay ahead of the curve and stay ahead of the game and recognize that as states have opened around the country, increasing cases have emerged. We need to anticipate that that's probably going to be the case. So why not stay ahead of the curve and use what we've learned from distance learning from the spring and summer to now activate and engage for the fall and perhaps even the winter and spring. Secondly, for the teachers in PTA, I'm going through the acronym, the parents. The parents need to be given the opportunity for distance learning. And before I get to the teachers, let me just get back to this. Parents need support. I've heard mention about opening up childcare centers, and I've heard mention about using certain, the YMCA. Offering some spaces and maybe spaces not being quite utilized. That has to be activated more. That has to be utilized more. That has to be an option for parents. It needs to be widespread and well known in terms of it being an option. If we're going to go distance learning, which we need to do, we need to make sure that parents who need to still work have viable options for those whom they're caring for. For the teachers, if we're going to go distance learning, which the PTA Council is in a consensus that we should do, we need to make sure that the teachers, including myself, who is a teacher in the district, needs to have the opportunities to be consistently trained in the platforms of remote learning, of distance learning, and not in a didactic mode. We need to be trained in modalities that really excite students and engage students, because we're going to be struggling with social emotional learning. We're going to be struggling with engagement.
I'm sorry, Mr. McCutcheon, I'm sorry, your time's up, but I appreciate how enthusiastic and committed you are. Really, truly.
No problem.
Thank you.
Be well.
You too. Our next speaker is Adam Cooper.
That works out very nicely that we go back to back. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Great, thank you so much. I'd like to begin by actually defining something that should have been defined in a presentation. Pedagogy, the method and practice of teaching, especially in an academic subject or concept. For all those out in cyberspace that have no idea what pedagogy is, as everyone talks about it as if it's a simple term. A well-known website defines technology as the sum of techniques, skills, methods, and processes used in the accomplishment of an objective. Let's be clear. A Chromebook and internet access are tools. They are simply the underlying infrastructure to enable teachers to teach and students to hopefully learn. I know that the instructional technology team has been hard at work, and I'm sure that they've done so much more than what was been presented. And that leads me to my beginning point. Where are the details? Tonight we were presented the quote tenets of the plan. So with 5 weeks to go until classes start, we finally got told what the overarching beliefs or principle, or as you put it, the tenets of distance learning reentry are, and not any of the specifics. There are so many questions to be asked, so many topics to be explored, but before those questions can even be formulated, we, the parents, need documented details and plans, not broad strokes and tenets. I will call one specific one out, though. The plan submitted this past Friday called for the teachers to receive 2 whole days of support in the areas of social, emotional health, and technology integrations. 2 whole days. Think about that. Moving on. We heard over and over, we're waiting for the governor to provide guidance. Well, yesterday he did, and he was loud and clear. He referred to the city's plan as more of an outline than a comprehensive blueprint. And let's be clear, that was 30 pages of single-spaced information, not 13 pages of double-spaced, bullet-pointed information. He spoke of parents having to be comfortable with the ultimate decision makers here and pointed out that this isn't between the school district and the state or the district and NYSED, but it's between the district and the parents. If they don't have a good plan for reopening, no kids are going to come and no teachers are going to come. An unacceptable plan is going to be determined more by the parents than the teachers, he said, noting if the school does not have a plan, then we're not going to allow it to open. So all that said, is one of the parents that Governor Cuomo is speaking of, what I'd really like to see, no, actually need to see, is not an outline of the district submitted to the state last Friday to simply check the boxes and say, yes, we can, but we need the details to go with them. Other countries have noted safety issues within the schools, procedures and protocols, classes, mask wearing, social distancing, and ventilation. Where are all the specifics to those bullets in the document? Where are the protocols that are referenced? Where are the clear, concise answers instead of circuitous references and inferences? Let's maybe start with what a day would look like and document each and every part of it from bus stop to drop off or dismissal. The plan talks of social distancing and movement within a classroom on page 7, but how does that work? For example, how will students enter the school, have their temperature checked, make their way to their lockers, and then to class? Will they walk single file on each side of the hall? What happens if a student is at a locker? Will they have to change classrooms? Do they cohort or do the teachers move? We have none of this at all. These are all easy questions, and I'm not even asking how the district is going to provide proper ventilation. Superintendent Fahey, I know you and the superintendents have been hard in work, and I believe we have parents of the district have only 5 weeks to go. We need the specifics. And the
Thank you, Mr. Cooper.
I'll send this in as an email.
Yeah, thank you. Excellent. Appreciated. Our next speaker is Robert Cox. Hello, Mr. Cox.
Wait, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, now, today I received an email from Greg Kern in his capacity as Freedom of Information Officer for the school district. He said he was writing to me in reference to my Freedom of Information request dated November 26, 2019. I have sent 2 relevant emails to each board member a little while ago. In his email, he said, further to my emails to you dated December 5th, 2019, January 8th, 2020, February 4th, 2020, March 3rd, 2020, April 14th, 2020, May 27, 2020, July 7, 2020, and of course, today, August 4th, 2020. Please be advised that at this time, the district is still in the process of reviewing documents that may be responsive to your requests. He offered 2 justifications: the voluminous nature of the material sought, and that the school districts in New York State have been closed in accordance with executive orders. Because of this, he said, the district has determined that it will require an additional 20 days with which to respond to my request. 20 business days from today, September 1. So that would be 280 days after my initial request, more than 9 months. So what is this voluminous records request that takes 9 months or more to fulfill? I requested emails between the New Rochelle Police Department and the school district on a specific topic, a third-party complaint concerning Lou DiRienzo during a discrete period of time in November 2019. This request is the opposite of voluminous. That school districts closed in March 2020 does not explain the failure to turn over a handful of easily obtainable emails in the months prior to COVID. While kids have been out of school buildings since March, to my understanding, learning has continued and the district has continued to operate as a going concern. Presumably, Mr. Kern has continued to receive a paycheck. I fail to see how the coronavirus explains his failure to produce a couple of emails for 9 months. I raise this matter tonight because it is hardly an isolated case. Mr. Kern has failed to fulfill the vast majority of my FOIL requests since his start date with the district. There appears to be a pattern, and I can only wonder if others besides me have had similarly troubling experience with Mr. Kern and FOIL. I would like
Mr. Cox, you've started breaking up at about 1 minute, 15 seconds. I don't know if anyone else could hear, but he completely broke up to me.
I was able to hear him.
I was able to hear too.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I couldn't hear anything. My apologies.
Well, I'll
Okay.
make it up to you, Rachel. I'll make you a copy, but let me just finish, okay? Because I'm almost done, because I have 2 asks here.
Mhm.
I would like Dr. Feo to determine how many FOIL requests Mr. Kern has received during his employment in New Rochelle, and state at the next board meeting how many FOIL requests have been fulfilled, denied, or remain pending. And of those, the number of days that each FOIL was or is pending. And for myself, I would ask Dr. Feo to see to it that all of my pending FOIL requests either be filled or denied by September 1. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dr. Bailey. I don't see her listed.
Yeah, I don't see her either.
I don't see her listed. If she's here, if you're signed up, Miss Bailey, to speak as someone under a different name, just raise your hand and I'll call on you. But I'll go to the next person right now, is Ann Spindle.
Miss Spindell actually emailed me. She left the meeting.
Oh, okay.
But she
And the
emailed
next-
us her comments.
Oh, she did? Okay. Next speaker then is Amy Emanuel. Okay, I'm gonna have to promote her to panelist to speak. Okay, Miss Emanuel.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
Good evening. Can you hear me
Mhm.
okay?
Yes.
Okay, well, let me start. I'm going to speak about campus school. I want to say that Dr. Fayhu mentioned that she had a meeting with parents and students, again, talking about the move to back to the high school and that they were amenable. I know no parents who are open to any such being amenable to anything like this. I have the list right here in my hand of all the parents and all the students of campus school. I am a parent advocate and one of the main ones there. I don't know one name on here that's going to be happy about a move back to the high school, because the children there, if we go back to the high school, these children who have been bullied and harassed at the high school and singled out are going to be ostracized and ridiculed because they're in a separate unit, but they're still in the high school. And sadly, many of them will not be participating. So I want to just say that I'm the parent of 5 campus alternative high school honor roll graduates, all went to campus at St. Gabe's, and I have the 6th child presently attending. I have had many occasions to go to St. Gabe's for various functions and events. I see nothing wrong with the school. I see no reason why it should be moved if school indeed reopens. For the past 28 years, St. Gabe's has functioned wonderfully. Nobody from New York State has stepped in and deemed their site undesirable or unsuitable. Dr. Fayhu and Mr. Thurnow made a fuss about such things as ADA compliance and said that the school district had to immediately vacate St. Gabe's because it was not ADA compliant. However, I have since learned that ADA compliance is not a mandate for elementary and high schools. So if we take ADA compliance out of the picture, what's left? As we all know, St. Gabe's has already passed this year and received a new certificate of occupancy, valid through spring 2021. At the last meeting, there was mention by some of the school board members to have, quote, listened in, unquote, to a phone call with Dr. Fayhu and an undocumented man who claimed to find fault with St. Gabe's building as unacceptable for the alternative high school. The claim made was that it was someone allegedly from the state speaking with them. There is not enough public information regarding that phone call, which seemed to sway the school board members. Where is the authority of this alleged person from the state? What are his credentials? Where is our proof of his allegations to prove fault enough to not reopen campus alternative high school at St. Gabe's? Where is our ability to view a list of definitive reasons to move out of St. Gabe's? Obviously, there's not enough transparency here. We need more transparency about that phone call, including documented written proof. The say-so of a man on a phone call that Dr. Fayhu has orchestrated should not hold enough weight for school board members to form a definitive decision. There is a large margin of necessity for discovery here, quite obviously. Why pull the rug out from under our flourishing high school students at the alternative school in the middle of a pandemic? You're welcome.
Okay, our next speaker is Ximena Francella. Oh, she just disappeared. Oh, there she is. Okay, sorry. Hello, Ms. Francella. Ms. Francella?
Unmute yourself, Ximena.
Hello? Okay, I think we should be able to hear you now.
Ok, buenas noches, soy Ximena Francella, vivo en el 123 Avamore Drive, doctora Feijó y miembros de la Junta Escolar. El plan para regresar a la escuela es crítico para los padres en este momento. El plan que se presentó tenía una opción para traducir en español, pero cuando los padres lo usaron, solo había la versión en inglés. Las reuniones también solo son en inglés y no permiten la participación de tantos padres de la comunidad. ¿Cómo el distrito escolar quiere la participación de los padres si no hay comunicación directa con ellos, en un idioma que claramente pueden entender? Pedimos que la Junta de Educación tenga la traducción simultánea durante las reuniones y también que toda la información por escrito esté traducido a español. Tenemos casi el 50% de padres de origen latino y es esencial que el distrito se comunique en el idioma natal de las personas. Hay suficientes personas que hablan español como la doctora Feijó y el doctor Marrero y no hay ninguna excusa porque no hay comunicación directa y efectiva con los padres. Queremos que todos los niños se beneficien de un nivel alto de educación y que los padres participen en todas las decisiones importantes de la vida escolar de sus hijos. Lo pedimos esto en nombre del Grupo de Fuerza Latina. Gracias.
Gracias. Okay, let's see. We have one more speaker that signed up.
I don't see him.
And it's in the request, in the request time to be in the other section. You see, Rebecca Gibbons. And I just want to acknowledge that I understand that Ms. Francella was asking for us to have a Spanish translation at our meetings. While I cannot speak Spanish, I can understand it. And so I appreciate the comments.
Ms. Relkin?
Yes.
I just want to say that when members of the community are speaking to the board, they need to be speaking to the board in a language that the Board of Education can understand. And so if we're having someone speak in a foreign language, then we need to have a translator. It can't be permitted without a translator because you can put yourself in a position where it's certainly not going to be Ximena, but in a position where somebody is saying crazy things, maybe hateful.
No, I completely agree. I completely agree with you. But I understand what you're saying, Amy. But in this case, I understood what she was saying, and I understood the point. I understood what the point she was trying to make, which is
I understand the point too. But I think the point could have been made, and we could have said, you know what, Ms. Ximena, we're going to go and find a translator, and we'll bring you back on in 10 minutes or so. Or we could have had Dr. Marrero translate. But it's a horrible precedent, and it should not be permitted.
Okay, point taken. So Rebecca Gibbons, let me see here. I do not see her signed up. Well, did I get everyone? I saw it.
Martin Sanchez is on, but he's off now. He's not.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I thought I saw him on there. Okay. All right. So if anyone who has not signed up to speak, want to speak, please just raise your hand and I will raise your hand in the chat and I will call on you in the order that you raised your hand. So the first person who has their hand raised is Tawanda. So I'm going to allow Tawanda to speak. Tawanda, can you hear us? Okay, I don't, if you need to unmute your mic. I don't think she's going, okay, if Tawanda, if you want to speak, you'll have to come back. Thank you. Okay, our next speaker then is Aisha Cook. Ms. Cook, are you there?
Hi, yes, I'm here. I'm
Hi.
tired, I'm confused, I'm frustrated. Hybrid model was confusing last week. Distance learning 3.0 LMNOP is insane. What are we going to do? School starts in a month, less than a month. Fully synchronous all day, every day just isn't realistic. Not only is it unrealistic for children to be in front of a device for hours on end, it is impossible to expect teachers to be online all day with students in the school day, plan more online lessons, check online work, collaborate online with colleagues, provide feedback to families, and actually take care of themselves and their own families. It just doesn't work this way. You cannot expect full day synchronous learning. When a teacher is sick, who will synchronously teach their class? I was also confused about the modules for teachers. What is that? When exactly would we get that training? Time is running out here. We need something realistic. While I've been on this call for the past 4 hours, Chicago Public Schools just went to fully virtual learning for the fall. As we go through the next few weeks, more and more cities, states will be doing the same thing. It's probably going to be where we're headed as well. We need something realistic here. How are we going to do this? Again, like I said the last time I spoke, nothing has changed from March 12th. I saw a schedule presented, but am I now supposed to spend the rest of my summer taking classes so that I can prepare? I don't understand. I just don't understand where we're going right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Our next speaker is Joe Andrews. Mr. Andrews, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead. 2 minutes.
With the online learning, I think that's due. What I do suggest is that, which I'm hoping that the teachers are doing live. Also, since it will be all day, I think as far as the social need, kids need to have a break in there where they can interact with their friends and things like that. And also maybe have a lunch break where they can be to themselves. So it needs to be like a regular day when the kids can engage with other kids and also have a lunch break as well. Also, my next thing is, when will the next meeting be? Because parents it needs to be like within the next days, like to talk about what's the next thing. The next board meeting for as far as Zoom. When will that next meeting be? I need to identify. And my last point is, whatever's going on as far as the communication, getting it out to the community, that needs to happen like ASAP. Everything that you guys have been discussing from the last 2 or 3 meetings about the online, it needs to be in the community as quickly as possible, through email, text, through flyers, through Facebook. However it needs to get out in the community, it needs to get out quickly. But I applaud you guys working very hard, because I know it's not easy, but also say, however it needs to get out, I will be one of those who get it out, because I've been on these meetings, on these calls every day, all the time, and I will get anything to make sure it's right in the community. I will work in my community to find out what kids need Chromebooks, what kids need Wi-Fi. So I'm all in and what you get, whatever you guys need.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, the last speaker signed up is Nathaniel Adams. Mr. Adams, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me, Rachel?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. First and foremost, a few topics I just want to discuss tonight. I want the board to know that also for the 91 years that the Boys and Girls Club has been here to serve our community, we are also prepared to support our students in our community for child care services. So we look forward to continually working with our district to support the needs of the students as we begin the reopening of the school year. I want to thank Dr. Marrero, Adegbola, and Gonzalez for their presentation tonight. I truly hope that this topic is continually supported as we deal with the shift in COVID that has placed in our normal school life. I know AP enrollment allows for a great measure for equity amongst our students, but there are also some other opportunities to minimize the equity gap among the children of color in New Rochelle. There is a failing student right now that needs us to encourage them to become a B student. There's an artistic Latino or African-American student that wants to be a part of PAVE. This is not a 1 or 2 year project. This is a generational tracking system that must start as early as elementary school. As shown in the data, social economics plays a major role in the success rate of our students. And one thing that I've noticed in New Rochelle, the squeaky wheel can't always get all the oil. Intentional actions, not intentional data and presentation is what will get this job done. I also want to thank Dr. Brooke Bouchin and the leadership that she provided with our health committee and all the work that we've done the past few months. This is something that's very near to my heart as a parent of this district, and I plead to our district leaders tonight. If we are not ready, if we don't feel comfortable with where we stand in reopening schools on all levels, if we have not ordered our PPE items, let's delay the opening of schools a few weeks. Let's make sure we get it right. Our parents deserve this, our administrators and teachers need this, and most importantly, our students must have this. And lastly, happy birthday, Adina.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Did I not say happy birthday to Adina? It is Adina's birthday, everyone. Happy birthday, Adina. I'm so sorry. I meant to say it.
Happy birthday, Adina.
Okay. All right, our next speaker is MD. Let him talk.
Yay, you see me.
I finally see you.
Phew. Hi, guys. Miriam. So I wanted to talk about the distance learning and all of that, and you've heard enough about how it's not ready. This last presentation on equitable school program for $27,000 is so not what the district is needed. Your gut feelings about all of those questions and what you said is absolutely right. We have programs upon programs, and what we need to do is make systematic changes to the system. And bringing in consultants for another 27, even though we think it's not that much, if you give the community $27,000, I bet you will get more students in AP classes than we'll get through this program. That's one. Secondly, the amount of time and effort that's going to be spent spinning our wheels, trying to figure out how to do this, when to do this, and all of that. Meanwhile, we're losing kids. I'll tell you one step that we could take right away. Make every child in the 8th grade take living environments and algebra. If they don't pass, then they can take it again in the 9th grade. That way you don't segregate them as we do right now. Those are the things that we have to change. We have places in our district where we segregate our kids on purpose, and everybody knows it. And we cannot continue to make commitments to changes after everybody made their heartfelt speeches after George Floyd, but then we continue to do things as always and think that we can hire consultants to make these changes. It's not gonna happen. We did NYU, nothing happened. So we cannot continue to do this. The distant learning thing is not there. Behu has to be, a year is here. You guys told us to deal with her and you would review her performance. You need to come back to us and tell us, because this is why we're in this wreck right now. This district needs to understand how this is being led. None of this stuff is in place.
Thank you, Miriam. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we had a few more speakers sign up. The first one is Rafia Ahmad.
Hi, sorry.
Go ahead, we can hear you.
Okay. Sorry, I'm joining in late. Just a quick note. I was speaking to a parent in a very small school district, and when when the distance learning plan came into March at their school district, she said that they ran a full school day, and what they were doing was, if a class was like 40 minutes long, they would do like a 20-minute with the teacher on Zoom. And then the next 20 minutes, they would assign some classwork, which the students could interact with. The teacher was there, but he or she would not interact. Then they would have like a 5-minute break, and then they would go on. Obviously, you subtract the time for lunch, which was not part of it. But they had a very good daily system put in. And in our case, I have a child in elementary and middle and high, and now 2 in high school at this point. But you know, we had just like 2 or 3 days of Zoom classes. It was inconsistent and it just didn't work well. And I thought that this consistency that I heard about may be implemented in our district and create some sort of a consistency. And that's all I really wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next speaker is Alexis Candelario. Hello?
Hi, do you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hi, I don't know if I should say good evening, it's kind of late, but so I just want to start by saying I'm very shocked, flabbergasted, all synonyms that go with those terms over tonight's meeting. I understand that, you know, there was a presentation needed to be done about virtual learning, understood. I understand that you need to think of the future and what's going to happen, you know, with the status of failing schools, understood. But where's the talk about the safety going back into schools in the middle of a pandemic? Why aren't we talking about the fact that coronavirus is out there? I feel like there are some of you, some more than others, being very heartless and callous right now at this moment. I'm insulted by the term of wasted Wednesdays, insulted as a teacher in the district, because unless you're in the classroom,
She just dropped. Can anyone else hear her? No. Okay. You just dropped out. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Do you hear me?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
I'm also insulted by the term of saying how because we're, you know, COVID is happening, that this is a freebie year. What? Would you like to tell the families of people who lost members that this is a freebie year for them because of COVID happening? This is insulting. And it's very disheartening that many of the members on the board are silent when terms like that are being tossed out, talking about people. And lastly, in my last 20 seconds, I will say testing and benchmarking. As a parent also, I want to hear about rapid testing for COVID over benchmark testing and STAR testing. How about that one? Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Next speaker is KB. Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
How you doing? My name is Robert Bynum. Good evening. First of all, I would just like to say that I find it interesting that we're talking about returning to school in a couple of weeks for our kids, and me and my wife, we both work in the district, and you guys are still having remote board ed meetings. before we decide to let our kids and staff go back to school, I would love to see you guys have an in-person meeting all in the same room, or even videotape you guys for 8 hours in a classroom with face masks on and expect kids to do the same thing. I think that's really difficult for anybody to think that a kid in second grade or third grade, sixth grade, or even in high school will be able to wear a mask all day and be taught. I agree with Nate Adams. If the schools are not ready, we should not come back. Y'all talked about bridging the gap between the haves, the have-nots, kids who have access to technology. I just want you guys to also think about, there are groups out there of parents who are forming cluster groups to be able to educate their kids by teachers or professors, and don't plan on coming back to school in September. So there's still going to be kids left out and kids left behind if we don't put something in place that really makes sense for kids to learn and be productive during distance learning. I know there is no easy answer. Nothing's going to be popular, but I think keeping our kids safe, keeping the staff safe is more important than anything else. I know you guys have a tough job to do. You're criticized more often than not, but that's just because people are real passionate about their kids and friends and family. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker is Timothy Mcknight.
Good morning, everyone.
It feels like morning. Good morning. Good evening. Good morning.
I'm not going to be too long because I agree with what Mr. Bynum said, along with Nate Adams and a lot of other people that had a lot of concerns on this call. One of the things that concern me is that I'm a co-chair of the networking group of New Rochelle, and the networking group in New Rochelle is a group of organizations that support the school system and also support the students, parents, and government entities to try to bridge that gap between us all working in silos. And I find it strange that no one have reached out. We've been having meetings about how we can support you guys, and we haven't had an opportunity to sit down and talk with you guys. And these are some important organizations that really deal with children inside the households and outside the households. And like I said this before on the call, the school district can't do this alone. You guys have a lot on your plate, personally and holding these positions. You guys can't do this alone, and you guys need to figure out how to engage with more organizations and more groups to help you guys. And it's just a concern as a citizen of New Rochelle and as an uncle and a leader in the community that you guys haven't reached out to us. And I'm not sure if you reached out to NRCC, which is also another great organization in the city, to help support you guys and help support our families and our children and our school district as a whole, and our city of New Rochelle as a whole. And these are some serious challenges that we're trying to take on. And like I said, you guys can't do it alone. So I really would like for you guys to consider reaching out to these organizations, reaching out to these different groups that set up to support and help out with these decisions. So thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you. Okay, our next speaker is Monzon. I don't know if it's Mary or Rick, but we'll find out.
Hi, it's Mary. How are you?
Mary, good, how are you?
Hi. I just want to say I'm 20 Davis Avenue, but I wanted to echo what Al had said. I'm also a member of PTA Council. We want to just not focus on the hybrid plan at all. We really need to go with a very, very strong distance learning plan at this time. We're wasting our time spinning our wheels. As we've already lost a member of our Trinity family and our Isaac family, having our kids go back to school and face the loss of another teacher, another staff member is just something that no child should have to deal with. We're not ready. I have 4 kids. One of my kids is going to be a senior next year. I would love for her to have that full experience. It's not feasible. it's not something that we could even visit at this time. We really need to focus on a very strong and rigorous distance learning plan, and then take into account our special needs population. Maybe they should be in-person learning. I'm also a special needs parent. There's pieces that are missing, and there's a vulnerable population that we need to reach that we are not reaching. And that's all.
Thank you. Okay, next is Rosa Rivera McCutcheon.
Hi, good evening. Rosa
evening.
Rivera McCutcheon, 31 Faneuil Place. As Al mentioned, where we don't have any power, so please bear with me. I think there, as Mary just mentioned, I think we need to prioritize district learning, distance learning rather. In particular, we need to prioritize instruction and supports for the most vulnerable in our community, where there is a need for in-person instruction. So students who are classified as ENL, families that are in temporary housing, perhaps pre-K to 5 who need to be in schools, and of course frontline workers whose children need to be in school. But most importantly, in order to do that, we need to build a digital infrastructure for the entire district. That's really critical. I know that was part of a discussion today, but it needs to be sustained and engaged over time and in partnership with educators in the district. And finally, we need to prioritize community building to increase access and success. Earlier, Ximena spoke in Spanish in her comments as a way to underscore the importance of having access to the information, which our district has done a poor job of, particularly as of late. We need to be able to really think creatively and as Tim mentioned, tap into the community resources to ensure that everyone has greater success. This is a leadership issue. And our leaders at the top really need to make sure that they are listening to the community and engaging in this work with fidelity. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Maritza Estevez. Hello? Mrs. Estevez, did you want to speak? You need to unmute yourself. Okay, I'll have to come back to her. Okay, next speaker is Jesse Betancourt. You're on mute, Mr. Betancourt. If you want to speak, you have to unmute yourself. Okay, they dropped out. The last person is Donna. Donna, if you're
yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. My thing is, good evening to all. I work for the city. For
Donna, what's your last name? Do you mind? What's your last name, please?
Henry.
Okay, Donna Henry. Thank you.
Okay, real quick. I know we're entitled to 3 minutes, but Mr. Iannuzzi been putting everybody on 2 minutes since the last Spanish person talked. And I don't think that's fair that everyone had 3 minutes and everyone else got 2. I took pictures of it so I can send it to you. But the school district is not ready to open. Y'all don't have a clue. You don't have a plan. The school buildings, half of them is not even finished as far as stripping floors and waxing them. And then where you gonna put all the furniture that can't go back because you wanna set the desks in there at 6 inches apart or 6 feet apart. My thing is this, kids need to be safe. I have 2 grandkids in school, one in elementary and one in high. I've been blessed to see 3 graduate and hope I see the rest of them graduate. But y'all are not ready, and it's just sad to say, everybody's rushing. This has been since March. I just wanna know, do y'all really care? Y'all had us working in a pandemic when everybody was home, and then we had to go out for 14 days for someone contracted the COVID. So I'm not even understanding. So you didn't care about us. How much do you care about these students that's getting ready to go back to school? Y'all are not prepared. I'm sorry to say, but y'all need to take your time, even if kids got to stay home for another month or whatever. So when they do come back, you're on the same page. And parents should have the privilege to walk through them schools and see what you have implicated before they allow their child to come back, so that they know that they are safe. And that's all I have to say. No, I don't. I got one more thing to say. You talked about the kids, but what about special ed kids and autistic
Ms.
kids?
Henry, you're out of time. You're out of time. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. That is the last of our speakers. I'll just say that just to the last point about the 2 minutes. So if you sign up in advance to speak, you get 3 minutes. If you sign up at the meeting to speak, you get 2. So there was no correlation to the fact that it was a Spanish speaker who spoke before I switched to the 2. It just happened to be that she was the last speaker who had signed up in advance. Everyone else after that got 2. So we're going to move on to our next item on the agenda, which is our voting part of the agenda. So can I have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 21-41, authorizing the continuance of the school board buddy system for the 2020-2021 school year?
Second, Iannuzzi.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. New business, consent agenda, personnel resolutions. Can I have a motion and a second to approve consent agenda for personnel resolutions number 21-82, number 21-83, 1 through 18, and number 21-84, 1 through 4, according to the recommended action for each item?
So moved, Iannuzzi.
Second, Kern.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. New business consent agenda general resolutions. Can I have a motion and a second to approve consent agenda for general resolutions number 21-85 through number 21-103, according to the recommended action for each item?
So moved, Iannuzzi.
Second, Oates.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Right now, our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, September 8th, 2020 at 6 p.m. The board anticipates making a motion to go immediately into executive session, and will announce the pertinent topic, and then a motion to reconvene the public session at 7 p.m. But as we discussed during this meeting, we're definitely going to schedule at least one more meeting. I can't imagine even it just being one, but we are definitely going to schedule another one, and we have to pick that date, and we will notify the community once that happens. We are going to adjourn tonight in memory of Jean Lyerly, retired senior typist, the administration building. She passed away on May 21st, 2020. In memory of Melba Shapiro, retired guidance counselor, New Rochelle High School, who passed away on April 16th, 2020. And Barbara Barkin, retired special education teacher, Mayflower School and Albert Leonard Middle School, who passed away on July 26th, 2020. Can I have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting?
So moved, Iannuzzi.
Second, Brooks.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Happy birthday, Adina.
Birthday.
Happy birthday. Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Night.